Hello and welcome to another episode of Marginal Support, where support is anything but marginal. I am your host, Andre Lindy, and I'm honored today to have my guest Denis on, who I saw his content on LinkedIn and I thought it was just amazing. It was beautiful. He's filling a need that's really out there, but I'm not going to steal any of his thunder. Denis, it's great to have you on. Thanks for being here.
Yeah. Thank you, Andre. I appreciate you having me. It's an honor to be here.
So, before we were recording, you were kind of giving me some insight into what you're doing. I think what you're trying to do is kind of fill a hole for some user interface things and some lines, but I'm not doing justice. I want to let you describe it more than I could.
Sure. I'd say that essentially what I'm trying to do right now is customer support operations, but it's like coupled with agent-driven development, or what is commonly known these days as vibe coding. I sort of try to combine my past experience with web design together with agent-driven development to produce tools, like very niche, very specific tools for customer support enthusiasts or team leads or heads of support, that can give them some insight into their support operations beyond, the standard metrics that are present in support CMSs these days, like Intracom, Zendesk, Front, or whatever.
The, I've talked to a lot of people recently, and everyone seems to constantly talk about how support ops is going from a nice to a must have.
Yeah.
What have you seen in that transformation over the past couple of years, where it seems like people are really focusing more on support ops now? Because it sounds like you're making tools for those people.
Yeah, well, uh, you can say that I'm making tools for these people, but it's like it's all in the very sort of beginning stages right now, still, because it's still a very new thing. Using AI to sort of help you develop things, and when you're not an engineer yourself, even though you do have some engineering experience, or like you understand how things work on a fundamental level, but you're still not a coder. You're not like a programmer. It's a new thing because I think it started taking off actually beginning of this year, so it's very very new. And as soon as I saw this kind of window of opportunity, I realized that I need to upskill a great deal on that, and it's actually a pretty unique skill to offer, because sport operations, it's fundamentally it's like you come in when things are messy, maybe high ticket volume, tagging discipline, or unclosed feedback loops, and then essentially you start by diagnosing what's broken and then applying some maybe automations or I don't know process changes, but it's all very like fundamental, like it's you're just using the tools that you have like inside the support CMS, like Intracom or Zendesk, but this additional layer that I have discovered beginning of this year actually lets you build stuff yourself. And for example, you can build some missing integrations, and you can make custom made, tailor made solutions for a specific company if some integration is missing. Like, for example, there could be some payment parameter that is missing from the Stripe integration in Intercom, and you very much need this parameter for customer support. So what do? You can ask the engineers to help you, but it's going to take a lot of time. I don't know, maybe 3 months, or maybe in the end they won't even be able to help you because they'll say, oh, we'll add it to the backlog and we'll take a look, but you need it now, and you need it as soon as possible, or better yet, you need it yesterday. So what do? Well, right now you can actually build this yourself, so and that's what I do. Or I don't know, let's say there's some payment system. Like recently I've been working with this payment system that is called PayPro Global, and they don't have integrations anywhere. They're not integrated in Zendesk, they're not in Intercom, so essentially it's like a dead end. What do? Well, using the tools you have now and the knowledge that you have now, you can actually build the integration yourself, because you only need to have access to the API to connect both systems. Ultimately, you just build a little app that is integrated into the side panel of the support CMS, and you can show all the payment information from that system. That's kind of like the gist, like the essence of what I'm trying to do. Go beyond just default tools in customer support operations, and provide something that is missing, and that the alternative to which could be asking the engineers, and it could cost the company a lot of money as well, because engineers, they have to interrupt whatever they're doing and dedicate certain hours to this support task that they have right now. But instead, you have this wonderful customer support operations specialist called Denis or whatever. I don't know. Maybe some other people are doing the same thing, but I haven't met them yet. I think uh, I'm kind of like singular in that regard. Yeah, you can just say, hey, we have this integration and it's missing. Can you help us build it? And I'm like, yeah, sure, I can do that. It's part of customer support operations, and I have the skills and experience to do that, so I do that. So, in summary, that's kind of like what I do. I hope
That's
that
pretty
makes
cool.
sense, because it's a little disjointed, but yeah, I hope you understand.
No, it's good. Your audio came a little muffled there for a second, but I caught the gist of it. What you say near the end, but I think this is kind of cool. You jumped on something. You saw an opportunity, and you said, "There's a need here, and I'm gonna respond to it." Right? What's been the response though to people seeing the work you're doing? Because that's how I discovered you. Is I kept you popped into my LinkedIn feed, and then I started seeing you put these videos and doing these demonstrations, and it looked gorgeous. So, what has been really the response from people that have seen the work you started to do?
Well, truthfully, so far it's been like crickets mostly. And I mean, I totally understand that, because it's still a very niche thing, and the greatest, like the biggest problem, or like not really a problem, but like there's a huge hurdle that someone like me needs to overcome, um, is like telling companies why they might need this in the first place, like explaining what the value of this thing is and why they need it now versus, like, I mean, at all, or like, there's this thing called customer support operations, and I can help you with it, and you know what is it going to help you do? Essentially, you have to come up with an outcome, like a result, and you know, in theory, it should be driven by either revenue or a churn, or something to do with money, because money is the first thing that companies look at when they're thinking whether to invest in something or not. I think, well, at least in my opinion. So it's been kind of hard to come up with like a quantifiable, like a measurable outcome of all these things that I'm trying to do, because yeah, these are like cool things for mainly for senior support people, like some cool metrics that you can track, or like an integration that you need. But ultimately, like for the company, and especially for the CEO, like what is it? Why does it matter if my support team cannot send cancellation emails because they are missing this certain parameter from Stripe that is missing from the integration? Like, what does it do for me? Like, why should I care? And this is the answer that, like, the question that is hard to find an answer to, because ultimately that's what we've been fighting for this whole time, all of us in support. Like, why does support matter? Like, what value does it have? Like, what value does it bring to the company? If we're thinking in terms of like reducing churn, that's like extra money saved a month. That's pretty understandable. But if we're going deep, very deep into operations, it starts to get really murky. Like, it's hard to single out like a clear metric that you can look at and say, hey, If you partner with me, I'm going to help you do this and that. So far I'm really struggling with, sort of having the value, like extracting the value out of it. And it's really hard to persuade people to, to actually invest in it at this point. I sort of distilled it into like the very basic foundations of customer support. I think there are like three modules that every support person needs to look at to make support better, and these are the tags, the macros, and the automations. But altogether, it's still hard to sort of extract like a clear-cut value from all of those. So I've been really struggling with this, and I know I've seen some other people discussing the same things and like posting about operations and tooling and stuff like that. And it's really cool, but it's still like a very, very niche thing. Like it's not something that's gonna, attract a lot of eyes or likes or comments. It's new. It's it's like on the edge. It's very sort of experimental, I would say, or avant-garde, if you will. So really, really difficult to get any kind of response to that. But still, it's been only like, let's say the beginning of all this was in January this year. So it's pretty young, this whole thing. It was born in January, let's say, and right now it's July, so it's only been like 7 months. Maybe I'm still trying to work it out. Maybe I'm on a path to, realizing and having my, insightful moment, something. Yeah, I'm still in the process of, figuring this out, I would say.
I mean, from everything you've told me, from everything I've spoken to people in the past, you honestly sound like you're a founder in a startup at its very birth point. I mean, the way that you're trying to find basically your sales pitch or your elevator post is something that I hear from
Yeah.
a lot of founders when they're starting a new company and they're trying to make a pitch to investors saying here's why you should
Hmm.
spend money in me. I mean, it definitely does sound hard. Um, One thing that I'm curious about though is you touched on this a little bit, and I've seen some people interact with you. What has been the interaction with people that actually understand what you're doing in terms of like, there's a few people on LinkedIn, a few people from Catco that that really interact with your content a lot. What has been their response for people that actually understand what you're doing? Like, what kind of feedback have you got from them?
Honestly, not a lot of feedback. I mean, I talk to like a few people in DMs, and they say like, "Oh wow, that's a cool thing that you're doing," and I'd love to have a similar tool for myself, so I could maybe track the same metrics, and um, use that thing that you're building. But essentially, it comes down to either using a company's budget to invest in that. I don't know, if I was offering it for free, then what would be the like the monetization for that? Like essentially, if I'd be providing it for free, like what is it good for me? Like just to get some clout, maybe? I don't know. This is an industry where like it's hard to persuade people to invest in customer support. It's really hard. And companies have pretty strict budgets, and even if someone is interested, like I had a guy, a head of support. He was really interested in my operations audits, and he said like, I'm really interested, but we have a lot of things going on, a lot of spending in support that we need to take care of. So essentially, this is not a priority at the moment. So we have to essentially postpone this for a later time. So yeah, it's tough, but I mean, as all things that are new, it's really hard to persuade people to see the value of it. And maybe I'm still like I'm repeating myself, but really I'm just still trying to realize the value of it and trying to package it into a product that can be, you know, attractive and that could persuade people to invest in it. So yeah, I mean, I sound like yeah, really like a founder of a startup, but essentially it boils down to maybe some sort of consulting business or like having some sort of agency. Ideally, I'd love to have like this little agency that provides operations audits to people, but consulting is a lot harder than having a full-time job. So, and you also need to support yourself while you're trying to work it out. So you have to have a full-time job, and when you have some free time, you have to dedicate it to figuring things out. So it's like it's having two jobs, but one of the jobs is still not paying you anything. So you just need to figure it out and hopefully switch sometime later. Yeah.
Now that you speak of that, what has been basically your background? I mean, how did you kind of stumble into this? It sounds like you said you saw this at the beginning of January, but what drove you to this? How did you even find out about this? Like, what was your aha moment when you said, "I want to do this," though?
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's simply because I was pondering this even before I stumbled upon agent-driven development because I had this idea. Well, at a company I was working at, and we were using intercom, and there was no way to import this parameter from Stripe that I was talking about, and we could not send cancellation emails because of that. So this was a problem that needed to be solved somehow. And I was talking to ChatGPT back in the day. I was like, I mean, theoretically, how possible is this technically to build this integration? And he was like, well, yes, it is possible. Like, it's just a simple JS file, and you need to deploy it somewhere on the back end. You need to connect a database to it, and you need to store some tokens in it. So it is possible technically, but back in the day, the system was not the language model was not at the level yet to be able to help me build it from scratch, from zero to complete. And with the systems that we have now, and things like software like Cursor, it's very easy to actually start building and then iterate and just make it possible from 0 to 100. So I guess I just needed to wait a little bit until the tools became more advanced, and now they allow us to do this. So I guess it's just the right time, the combination. I realize that now it is possible, and you still need to have a certain eye for detail because you still need to do a lot of debugging. Because as soon as you deploy the app, it crashes. You get a lot of errors in the console, and you need to analyze those errors. And it's not, I mean, it's not like you tell the AI what to do, and it gives you a code, and then you deploy it, and it works right away. No, it doesn't work right away because it doesn't work, and then you tell it that it doesn't work, and then the AI says, "Oh yeah, you're right. Actually, it's my bad. I forgot about this one thing that I was missing. You need to do this and that." So it just takes a lot of time, a lot of spitballing, and a lot of back and forths. But if you don't have like a certain technical knowledge, like the basic technical knowledge, you cannot do this because deploying the app, you need to know what is deployment, like what are some of the systems that you can deploy on, like how do you deploy, how do you add your variables, where do you store your tokens, your authorization tokens, where do you store like how do you connect the database to your actual application. So all those things, you cannot do this by yourself. And even if you ask AI how do you do this, it can give you some basic information, but it doesn't actually know how every menu item is called in reality. Like it starts to hallucinate. You need to go to settings and then open this tab, but this tab actually doesn't exist in this application. So you need to have like an eye for detail. So without underlying technical knowledge, it's really hard to build an application beyond just having a fancy non-working UI interface. So if you want to have a working application, you actually need to do a lot of dirty debugging and get really into the weeds of those console logs and constantly redeploy and constantly push to your repository and maybe roll back because this thing doesn't work. So it's really like a programmer's work, but With AI, is just a lot easier.
I mean, everything you're describing right now just sounds like a lot of things I've heard from engineering teams I've worked in the past about, just the software life cycle, what it involves and whatnot. Earlier you said you really had to level yourself up. How did you level yourself up? What steps did you take when you realized that your current knowledge was at the level it needed to be, and how did you try to get to that level?
The best thing to do is to actually build the thing that you want to build, and in the process you learn a lot. So you start learning by searching for things that are real, like it's a real world scenario, it's a real app that you're building, and you're dealing with real things like intercom, backend, or using their canvas system for initializing the app, a lot of error codes that are real. So you're dealing with real things, not just theory, but you're building in practice, and that's the best way to learn, and that's the best way to upskill. Just think of something that you want to build. It could be something really small, like in my case it was just this missing parameter from Stripe that I needed in intercom. Just a small thing, just decide on a small thing and try to build it, and in the process you'll learn a lot. You'll come out of it with a lot of knowledge, I promise you.
It's amazing. I just love that approach of like, damn it, I'm gonna build it, and I'm gonna find people who've done it in the past, and I'm gonna learn from them. So that I think that's a great response. I think that's something that's really needed for people in the sport world, that they have this passion for learning, and they have this hunger to want to learn. So
Yeah.
we are coming near the end of our time. Is there any closing messages or anything like that you want to share with people? Like either your elevator pitch or just who you are. Like, what's a closing message you have?
Oh man, yeah, it's really hard. I mean, I don't even know what to say really, except I think the future, I really hope the future of customer support belongs to builders, and not just, responders, not just to people who respond to tickets, but to those who can actually go beyond that and give companies something more than just, a text reply. So I hope everyone can look at this and say, hey, there's something for me to learn, and I'm going to go in and start with something small. I'm going to try and build this thing and see how that goes. And hopefully, I'll come out of it with a lot more skills. And we can all later, discuss this and share our experience in the comments and have a really tight knit support operations community if possible.
Amazing. Well, I think that definitely holds true to what I try to say near the end of every episode, that customer support just isn't a job, it's a mindset. Because we just
Yeah,
have to like think of, how are we supporting people, but we have to take that into pretty much anything we do, not just pigeon our hole into like one thought process. So I
I
completely
agree.
agree. Well, Dennis, it was an absolute pleasure having you on today. I wish you only the best, and let's keep in touch.
Yeah, thank you so much. I have a hard stop also at 4, so I got to jump to a different call. But thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it, and hopefully we can connect later. For the second time, maybe I'll have something new to say.
That's right. All right. Talk to you later.
All right. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.